If you want an avoidant to come back to you, you have to stop chasing the version of them that lives in your head. Stop it right now. Because the person you're texting, the person you're rehearsing conversations with in the shower, the person you're refreshing your phone for at 11:47 at night, that person isn't the one who's actually going to walk back through the door. The one who comes back is the one who feels safe. And safety, my friend, is not something you can beg somebody into feeling. Safety is a state, and state is created. It's not stumbled into. Listen, I've spent the last 4.5 decades in rooms with human beings, 5 million of them, give or take, from every continent, every income bracket, every kind of heartbreak. And I'll tell you something I've learned about avoidance that almost nobody says out loud. Avoidance is not a lack of love. It's a lack of capacity. It's a nervous system that at some point in that person's early life decided closeness costs too much. And so when they feel you coming toward them with an emotional request, their body, not their mind, their body pulls back before they even know why. You want to trigger them to reconnect? Then you have to become somebody their body doesn't have to run from. That's it. That's the whole game. Everything else is a footnote. Now let me be honest with you. There's 3 decisions you make every moment of your life, and you're making all 3 right now, whether you know it or not. The first decision is what you focus on. Are you focused on their absence? Are you focused on the last cold text? Are you focused on the person they were 3 months ago when they were still present with you? Because whatever you focus on, you feel. The second decision is what it means. Same absence. One person decides it means I'm not enough, and their whole body collapses. Another person decides it means they're overwhelmed and they're doing the only thing their system knows how to do, and they stay grounded. Same event, 2 universes, and the third decision is what you're going to do. Are you going to chase? Are you going to text again? Are you going to punish? Are you going to disappear in retaliation? Or are you going to do something so different, so unfamiliar to them, that their whole pattern has nothing to grip onto? Focus. Meaning, action. 3 decisions, every moment. And here's the thing. The avoidant person you love is running the exact same 3 decisions, just unconsciously. They're focused on the pressure they feel from you. They've made that pressure mean, I'm going to lose myself if I stay close. And their action is retreat. So if you want to change their pattern, you don't do it by yelling at their pattern. You do it by changing yours, because focus is the master key. Focus is the lens. Focus determines everything. We don't experience life. We experience the life we focus on. There's a million things happening in your relationship right now, and most of them you'll never notice because you've trained your attention on the wound. You've trained it on the silence. You've trained it on the last time they pulled away. Meanwhile, somewhere in the background, there's the version of you who existed before you met them. The person who had their own weather, their own gravity, their own reasons to get out of bed. And that person is still there. You just haven't looked at her in a while. Or him. You just haven't looked. So what's behind the story you're telling yourself? It's your state. Your mental, your emotional state. And the state you're in right now, that anxious, monitoring, scanning for crumbs state, is the exact state that tells an avoidant nervous system to run. Because avoidants don't recoil from love. They recoil from need that feels like a demand. They recoil from the energy of, I need you to come back or I'll dissolve. They can smell that from across a city. And the moment they smell it, their whole biology closes. It's not manipulation, it's biology. Here's the truth. You cannot text an avoidant back into connection. You cannot argue them back. You cannot logic them back. You cannot even love them back. Not from the state most people love from when they've been abandoned. Because when we've been abandoned, we don't love. We cling. And clinging looks like love from the inside, but it feels like a hand around the throat from the outside. And I'm not saying that to shame you. I'm saying it because I've been that hand. I began with anger. I began every relationship in my 20s from a place of, please don't leave me, because if you leave me, I have no proof that I'm worth staying for. And that fuel didn't last. It burned everybody around me, including me, and it did not produce the outcome I wanted. Not once. Not ever. The fuel had to change. And I want you to see this, because this is where most of the advice on the internet fails you. Everybody's telling you to go no contact like it's a manipulation tactic. Like if you just disappear long enough, they'll come sprinting back. And sometimes, yeah, a strategic silence does bring them to the door. But if they come back and you're still the same anxious, scanning, monitoring person you were before, they'll leave again inside of 90 days. Because the pattern hasn't changed. You haven't changed. All you did was hide. And hiding is not healing. It's not identity. It's a costume. The real trigger, the actual biological unconscious thing that makes an avoidant lean back in, is when they feel your center of gravity move off of them. Not away from them. Off of them. There's a difference. Away is punishment. Off is presence. Off is when you wake up on a Tuesday and you're genuinely more interested in the book you're reading than in whether they've opened your last message. Off is when you laugh at something at dinner and you don't reach for your phone for 2 hours. Off is when your friends tell you you seem different and you don't even know what they mean, because the difference is that you finally came home to yourself. That is the trigger, not silence. Sovereignty. And I know I'm right about this because I've watched it happen thousands of times in the couples I've worked with. The avoidant partner doesn't come back because the other person begged better. They come back because the other person stopped being emotionally reachable in the desperate way and started being emotionally reachable in the grounded way. And a grounded human is magnetic. Not because they're playing hard to get, because they're actually hard to get in the sense that they're no longer available for the version of the relationship that was killing them. Let me say that again. You have to become unavailable for the version of the relationship that was killing you. Not unavailable to the person, unavailable to the pattern. That is the whole shift. And when you make that shift internally, the avoidant feels it before you even tell them. They feel it in the texture of your text messages. They feel it in the length of your pauses. They feel it in the fact that you're not checking. And their nervous system, which was previously in defense, starts to soften because the pressure is gone. And when the pressure is gone, curiosity comes back. And curiosity is the first neighbor of love. Now here's what I want you to see about avoidance itself, because I don't think you've been given a fair picture of it. An avoidant person is not a villain. An avoidant person is somebody who, somewhere in their childhood, learned that expressing a need got them punished, ignored, mocked, or engulfed. So they made a decision. A decision, remember, is the invisible force that shapes a life. They made a decision that said, I will never need anybody, because needing is dangerous. And that decision protected them for 20 years. It got them through school. It got them through their parents' divorce. It got them into a career. It made them competent. It made them self-sufficient. It made them the kind of person who can go 3 days without talking to anybody and feel fine. And then they met you. And you, my friend, are the first person in a long time who made them want to need somebody. And that terrifies them, not because you're too much, because the wanting is too much. The wanting means the old decision, the one that kept them safe their entire life, might not be true anymore. And that's a psychological earthquake. So when they pull back, they're not pulling back from you. They're pulling back from the collapse of their own protective architecture. It's not personal. It has never been personal. It's not weakness. It's history. And when you can see them that way, not as a puzzle to solve, not as a prize to win back, but as a human being whose survival strategy is now the thing costing them the relationship they actually want, something in you softens too. And that softening is the very thing they need to feel from you before they can come close again. Because avoidants don't move toward pressure. They move toward peace. So how do you become peace? You become peace by doing something so small and so daily that most people never bother to do it. Here's the drill. It takes 90 seconds. You do it every morning for the next 30 days, without exception. This is non-negotiable. This is not optional. This is the foundation. You wake up. Before you touch your phone, before you even look at whether they texted, you sit up on the edge of the bed, you put both feet on the floor, you close your eyes, and you name 3 things you're genuinely grateful for. Not performatively. Actually, one of them has to be something about yourself, not about them, not about the relationship, about you, your breath, your body still working, the fact that you got through yesterday. And then, still with your eyes closed, you decide out loud, whispered if you need to, the emotional state you're going to live from today. You say, today I live from strength, or today I live from curiosity, or today I live from love that isn't afraid. And then you stand up. That's it. That's the whole drill. 90 seconds every day for 30 days. And I know it sounds too small to matter. Everybody wants the big dramatic gesture. Everybody wants the closure conversation. Everybody wants the perfect text that magically summons them back. But the small thing done daily is the strongest force in a human life. Because you're not trying to change them. You're changing the state you broadcast from. And state, your emotional state, the frequency of the room you walk into, is the actual signal an avoidant is reading. They're not reading your words. They're reading your nervous system. And when your nervous system finally comes home to itself, they feel it. From wherever they are, they feel it. Now, what does that mean to you practically in the next 24 hours? It means you stop editing that text you've been drafting for 3 days. It means you close that thread. It means when you feel the urge to reach, and you will, probably at around 9 or 10 at night when the house gets quiet, you put your hand on your own chest instead, and you say to yourself the thing you were about to say to them. You give yourself the reassurance. You give yourself the presence. You become the person you were waiting for them to be. Not forever. Not because you don't want them back. Because if they do come back, they have to come back to somebody who can actually receive them. And you cannot receive somebody from a state of famine. You want to know why most reconnections fail? Because two starving people find each other again and try to feed each other, and neither one of them has anything on the plate. I don't think so. Not this time. Not for you. Because here's what I know. If you suffered when you were young, if there was a version of you at 7 or 8 or 11 who learned to read the room before she read a book, who learned to make herself smaller so the adults wouldn't fight, who learned that love was something you performed for rather than something you received, then part of why this relationship has hurt so much is that it's touching that kid. The avoidant didn't create the wound. They just walked into a room where the wound was already waiting. And here's what I want you to see, because this is the piece nobody says. That childhood, the one you'd give anything to rewrite, has been a handbook of survival in disguise. The fact that you learn to read rooms means you have an emotional intelligence most adults will never develop. The fact that you learn to be alone means you have a self-sufficiency people twice your age haven't touched. The fact that you learn to love people who couldn't fully love you back means you have a capacity for compassion that is genuinely rare. You didn't come out of that childhood broken. You came out of it fluent in a language most people can't even hear. And the reason I'm telling you this, the reason it matters right now, tonight, with the phone face down on the table, is that the person you're trying to get back to is not going to be the one who saves you from that childhood. They can't. Nobody can. The only person who can walk back into that room and get that kid is you. And when you do, when you actually turn around and sit down next to the 7-year-old version of you and say, I've got you, I'm not leaving, I'm not going anywhere, something changes in your whole gravitational field. And avoidants, of all people, feel gravitational fields. It's the only thing they trust, because they don't trust words. They've been lied to with words their whole lives. But they trust presence. They trust weight. They trust the person who is undeniably home inside themselves. Become that person. And watch what happens. Here's an image I want you to hold. If you want to take the island, you have to burn your boats. You know the story. The general lands his army on the far shore, and before they march inland, he turns around and sets the boats on fire. Not because he's cruel, because he knows that as long as those boats are behind them, half of his men will be looking backward the whole battle, and you cannot take an island while looking backward. You want the avoidant to come back? You have to burn the boats of the relationship you had with them before, the one built on anxiety, the one built on monitoring, the one built on the low-grade emergency of never quite knowing where you stood. That relationship has to die in you before a new one can be born between you. And you kill it by no longer being available to it. In yourself first, not in them. In you. It's not silence, it's sovereignty. It's not distance, it's dignity. It's not manipulation, it's medicine. For both of you. And listen, some of them come back, some of them don't. I have to tell you the honest thing, because I'm not going to lie to you. Some avoidants do the work and come back, and the relationship becomes the thing you always sensed it could be. Others don't. Their pattern is older than you. Their pattern is older than this relationship. Their pattern might outlive both of you. And if that's the case, if they don't come back, or they come back only halfway, or they come back for 6 weeks and then leave again, then the drill still worked. Because the drill was never really about them. The drill was about returning you to yourself. And a self that is returned home is a self that will eventually, inevitably, be found by somebody whose nervous system is ready. That's not a promise. That's just physics. And this is the part where I want to slow down. Because I've watched people spend 3, 4, 7 years trying to trigger a reconnection with somebody whose nervous system will never be able to hold what they're offering. And every one of those years, the person doing the waiting got smaller, not bigger, smaller. Their world contracted around the possibility of one specific human. And the tragedy, I don't use that word lightly, the honest tragedy of that is not that the avoidant never came back. The honest tragedy is that a human being with an enormous life ahead of them chose to keep pointing all their focus at one closed door when there were rooms and rooms behind them they hadn't yet walked into. Don't be that person. Focus on the door if you must, for a season. But do not build a house on the doorstep. Now here's the philosophical piece, the part I really want you to sit with. Life happens for you, not to you. This avoidant showing up in your life right now, in this exact way, with this exact wound they're carrying and this exact silence they're offering, is not a punishment. It's a curriculum. They are showing you every place inside yourself where you have not yet chosen you. Every text you send from anxiety is a place inside you that hasn't been mothered yet. Every night you can't sleep because they haven't responded is a place inside you that hasn't been fathered yet. This relationship, even if it never becomes what you wanted it to be, is doing something for you that no easier relationship could ever have done. It is forcing you to become somebody who does not require somebody else's presence to feel present in her own life. And that, my friend, is the most valuable currency in a human existence. That is what wealthy people with empty marriages would trade their whole portfolio for. That is what everyone eventually has to learn or die still needing. You get to learn it now, at this age, with this person, in this exact way. That's the gift. It doesn't look like a gift. It looks like a phone that isn't ringing, but it is the gift. And here is where I land it for you. The real trigger for an avoidant to reconnect is not a message. It's not a strategy. It's not a book you read on attachment theory, though God knows, read the book, read all of them, understand the mechanism. Do not walk into this blind. But the actual trigger, the biological, chemical, undeniable one, is when they feel you become somebody who no longer needs them to feel whole. Because at that exact moment, you stop being pressure and you start being possibility. And possibility is the only thing an avoidant nervous system has ever been able to move toward. Pressure closes them. Possibility opens them. Become possibility. And you don't become possibility by pretending. They will smell the pretense from 100 miles. You become possibility by actually doing the 90-second drill, actually calling the friend you've been ignoring, actually going for the walk without the phone, actually feeding the part of you that's been starving for your own attention while you've been feeding the ghost of somebody else's. Real change is boring. Real change is small. Real change is the same 9 actions repeated for 30 days until your face starts to look different in the mirror, and you don't even know when it changed, but somewhere in there, it did. And when it does, one of 2 things will happen. Either they'll feel it and come back. And this time, because you're different, you'll be able to have a real conversation with them, one where you can say, here's what I need, here's what I can offer, here's where I've grown, and here's what I no longer accept, or they won't come back. And you'll wake up one morning 6 months from now and realize that the ache you carried for them has become a low hum you barely notice anymore. And a life you didn't know you were building has grown up around you like a garden you forgot you planted. Both outcomes are wins. Read that again. Both outcomes are wins. Because in both of them, you got you back. And you were the prize the whole time. Find something you care about more than the outcome of this relationship, and you will never be small in it again. That's the whole thing. That's the real trigger. Not silence, not games, not 7-day no contact rules. Those are the surface. The real trigger is a human being who has decided quietly, without announcement, that they are no longer available to abandon themselves for the sake of somebody else's comfort. And when the avoidant feels that decision in you, and they will feel it, they always feel it, one of two doors opens, and whichever door opens, you walk through it standing up. You don't experience life. You experience the life you focus on. So focus on the one that has you in it, fully, wholly, without apology. You owe it to you.